All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I know we have a small group today, but I think other people will be joining. Today's session is all about just making it easy for you to, here, I've got a few more coming in. It's all about getting ready for your final presentation. So your integrated marketing plan. So what I'm going to be doing is walking through kind of where you are on the plan and what still needs to be done, because there's still some sections that need to be completed. So everyone has done, I think I've given you lots of feedback. I hope enough feedback on all of the various sections that you've done so far. This is, excuse me, this was put in at the very beginning, was in our first module, all about the marketing plan. Let me move this over.
Is that actually how you play, though?
What?
I was looking at you play, but I don't know. It doesn't look like you're playing Fortnite. It just looks like you're watching.
Hey, I'm hearing people talk. Sorry. Okay, admitting all here. All right, I'm going to go back to this. We'll just keep admitting as they come in. At the second session, or second module, I think even the first module, this thing was about the marketing plan. And it was all about the various elements. I showed you a couple of marketing plans from some other organizations. What we teach at Bellevue College is a lot more specific to a traditional marketing plan. Yet when you get into the real world, this marketing plan I showed you from HubSpot, I don't know if you remember this or you've taken a look at it. If you haven't, you might want to look at it. That is one that might be used a little more readily in business because there, is, even though the traditional thing, we have to teach you the basics of how these are traditionally done. Today's marketing team and CEO and so forth are really impatient about going through each of the steps that one needs to take to do this. And although they still do it in this plan, it's almost like a bit of a shortcut. But for us, I know I talked to you briefly about the PATER approach, and the PATER approach just basically takes each of the elements you've done or what I still hope for you to do and puts them into the PATAR. The planning was all of your research, your setting of your goals, the competitive analysis, any of those kinds of things that we did at the beginning. Each of the various steps we took to better understand the competition, to better understand the company and its product, to understand the objectives and goals, objectives being your very broad objectives to launch a new product or do something, increase market share. Those are your very broad objectives. Then you set goals, SMART goals, as well as marketing goals. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think a couple of teams struggled with those a little bit. And don't feel bad if you did. These are big deals and they are always a problem. So it's one of the things, in fact, we just had a faculty meeting and talking about the fact that it's as students progress in marketing and those who have gone on to the BA program, bachelor's program, still don't fully understand the difference between a promotional goal and a SMART goal. So I'm assuming that I could do a little bit here to explain that and people wouldn't mind. Is that the case? Assume so. Okay. So I'm going to just move ahead on that one. Let's see if I still have, looks like I've got a couple of people wanting to get in. Just a second here. All right. Getting rid of that. Admit. Okay, sorry about that. So let's talk about the difference. The SMART goal, you guys worked on very well. Some of you just nailed it, and understanding the specific and the measurable and all of those steps to making sure that you could write a goal that you can use at the very end of your entire plan to say, did it work? You have something to measure. And that's where the ROI comes in, that return on investment, the analytics, the Google Analytics, data analytics, Facebook analytics, the sales numbers, or what we call flash reports in retail. And you can get hourly, daily, up to the minute flash reports. So that you can indicate if you had something to sell $5,000 worth of coffee in the first hour, you would know that through a flash report, and they would be able to get you that instantly, which is why they call it flash, old-fashioned term, but it's still being used by CEOs today. So those are the measurable things. They can be they can be long-term measurable. They can be things like, I know some of you did things like a certain amount of generating sales in the first 6 months, or gaining website visits in the first month, or something along those lines, where you can either, it's oriented towards how many people I've got using the website, how many people are on social, did we gain some more people, are people buying online? There's a whole lot of ways for SMART goals to be laid out that could be later measured. A promotional goal is a little bit tougher because you don't necessarily put it into SMART terms. It isn't always something you can measure. It might be to increase the brand's positive ratings over the next 6 months. So to do that, you might have to do a benchmark survey to figure out where the brand sits, or it might just be that you want to raise awareness. You can't necessarily always measure awareness. You don't always have your baseline. But for a promotional goal of raising awareness through social media, that can be a promotional goal. It's a bit vague, and that's okay, because when you get into your strategies to achieve that goal, you'll outline that you will use social media to spread the message of the new location. During social media, we'll focus on individual items to excite people to come in, whatever. But those are strategies that you're going to use. So the promotional goals that you put into that, and I'd like you to have one promotional at least, and at least one sales goal, can be a little more vague, and that's okay. That's okay. With the sales goal, you definitely need it to be a SMART goal. And it isn't always sales. It can be that you can take certain promotional goals and make them SMART. Again, if you wanted to do a promotional goal and you wanted it to be a SMART goal, make it something associated with number of users coming in to the website, because it's focused in again on promotion, raising our awareness level by 5,000 new followers. You can do that kind of thing as well. So that's kind of where we're going with that direction. Now, I think all of you you're past that. You've done it, but I left some comments on some of yours, and I'd like the teams to go back and sort of revise those. First off, I want to make sure that everybody has put this into a PowerPoint at this point. Is that happening? I'm going to open up chat and let you guys do that. I just want to make sure, yeah, okay, that every team has put this into a PowerPoint. Good. So, because some people have been submitting, some teams have been submitting it more in Word or just in a doc, printed, typed up. So make sure your PowerPoints are done. Make sure they're visually appealing. And I'm not just doing that for me. I'm doing it because as a person who has developed pitches for business for 30 years, it is really important that these visually captivate the audience. It isn't just for show. Everybody's human. So if you're pitching this to your marketing director or the marketing director for the roastery, and the GM is in there and others, you've got to make it look like you have really pulled together the imagery and the feeling and all of that. So even though you are creating slides with content, find a way to either do separation slides, like getting me from one to the next that might have visuals, but pull visuals that you find appealing. Obviously, they should be from the roastery. So there's tons of them online. Make that happen. Make sure that everything aligns properly, that, I don't know if in PowerPoint you guys have used the Create Design feature. It's a really nice, in fact, it's a very useful tool. So in PowerPoint, you can, it's literally, I'm going to put it up here. It's literally up over here. When you go into design and you pick your design and you do Create Design, they will lay out the page for you in several versions for you to try. So you don't always have to do all the fancy layouts. You put a picture in, you put some bullet points, and then hit design. And they will, PowerPoint will come up with a great design for you. So try that if you haven't seen that before. I use it all the time because it makes each of the presentations look really cohesive as well. So anyway, but that's just another thing for you to be thinking about as you're doing it. So content is as important as visual. Yeah, I think you've probably heard the term when people talking about food, you eat with your eyes first. The same thing is true of presentations. I want to teach a presentation class because it just, in fact, in one of our entrepreneurial series, we have a class that talks about just how to build your financial pitch for angels, because it's just so important to, when you're out there in the real world pitching things, to think about what does the customer need. Now, in this case, your customer is both me as your instructor and a fake Starbucks customer. Okay, so your internal Starbucks customer. So as you're writing things, as you're pulling it together, put me in the role of the Starbucks marketing team. Okay, I'm the lead on the Starbucks marketing. I've asked you to look at specific things. I've given you kind of a vague rubrics that talks about some of these elements I want to see in there, but it doesn't necessarily have the real specifics. Michelle, in terms of order, the order I'd like you to follow will be going into this, where you're putting things, you don't have to say planning, you don't have to use Pater at all, but just the idea that the research and all of your preliminary things building up. So understanding who you are, who's your customer, who's your competition, all of that's at the beginning. And then you move into your goals, your objectives, your goals, and your strategies. And those strategies, remember, are going to be the broader strategies. Strategies and tactics are two very different things that totally integrate and relate to each other. So let me work on that with you. So here's, you can see here, goals and objectives. These are questions I put in here to prompt you to think, but you don't have to use any of this stuff. You've done all this work. All you're doing at this point is refining this section. Okay, you're getting it into a beautiful presentation. You're making sure everything is laid out properly. You're, flowing from one to the other in the way that logically, and I'd like you to use some of that. Just, I don't have a perfect way to list it. Think about the flow the way you're presenting it, but just keep all of that stuff, kind of all of the research things at the beginning and that kind of things. With the competitors, I had it that you needed 3 competitors, and I'd like you to stick with that and make sure the competitors are not just coffee shops. This is not the ordinary coffee shop. And some of you I know for Atlanta did the World of Coca-Cola. To me, that's a perfect competitor. It's a popular brand. It's an exciting brand that a lot of people basically are loyal to. They love their Coca-Cola and they want to hear the history of it, but it's kind of a fun museum and history and experiential kind of thing as the World of Coca-Cola. It's an attraction. Starbucks roasteries, with 70% of the people visiting them being international and national travelers, is an attraction. Only 30% of the people use it on a regular basis that are living in town. So there, and that doesn't mean it's a small number of people because they get a ton of visitors, but it's really important to think of this as an attraction. So please make those competitors be something like that. In addition to it, you can use local coffee shops with a real brand identity as one of your competitors, because a lot of people, as you know, are anti-Starbucks. So there's going to be this, or they see them as the big behemoth. They're not this cute little coffee shop. They're not my local brand. So that's the kind of thing where you can use one of those. If Atlanta has this really great local brand that people just rally around, they're a competitor, because they're going to mean people will shut down Starbucks completely. So think of an attraction that's of that high-end, brand-oriented attraction. That would be the roastery. And I'm already giving you the Coca-Cola. The world of Coca-Cola is definitely one you can put in there. And some of you did, excuse me. You can have a brand of coffee that has a loyal following, but I don't want to see just 3 coffee shops. Okay. So here you are in this section. And again, this is all work you've done that you're just refining. Go back to my notes, just make sure that I might have provided you. Some of you did it spot on, so I didn't do a lot, but the positioning check. If you have done all coffee shops, throw out 1 or 2 of them and put in something else. Okay? Then we're going to go into the approach. The approach in this stage is strategies and tactics. Okay, this first part was goals, objectives, STP, all that kind of stuff. Now with the strategies and objectives, you're going to look at, who are the partners, in launching your campaign, and what role do they play? Now, what I mean by that is a lot of times companies will partner with others. In the case of Starbucks Roastery, an odd partner might actually be Starbucks Green Dot stores. You could promote it, cross-promote the new roastery through the Green Dot stores. They have regular loyal customers, they have all of that. And so they may be the kind where you give them maybe some kind of coupon to go try it. You do some online things, you do some cross-promoting. Maybe for those who have they do everything on Apple Pay, you give them some special promotion. That is one of them. The other kind of partners you have could be potentially your international coffee companies. They could cross-promote it. They could work with you. So think about who might be part of that. And that would be, you don't have to put in a partner, by the way. These are just, again, things that could be your strategies. But I do want you to have you've got to have more than one strategy. Nobody has one strategy. So I'd like to see you have 3 strategies, and then take those strategies and add in your tactics. So you're looking at your social media, you're looking at your paid, earned, owned, and unpaid, unearned, all of those kinds of things. You're looking at your channels that you're going to target, which are really going to be the best places to reach people. Now, this approach has more than you're going to need to do. I don't care if you do anything on the internal team at this point. A true marketing plan would talk about how you are going to integrate the internal team. And in this case, if you choose that Starbucks Green Dot stores will be part of your promotional plan, then you do need to educate the internal team at Starbucks so that they know what it is. So somebody says, well, what is this roastery? Oh, didn't you know it's this great thing that's open down the street there, and it's in town, or it's here, it's there, and it's a whole new part of, Starbucks. You got to try them and that kind of thing. So you need to have them as your ambassadors. Okay. What I'd like at this point, when you do talk about strategy and positioning, you do start talking about content. What are you going to say? So I think when you're talking about the strategy, add in there main messaging. Your strategy is to go after social media, to stimulate new trial of the roastery through compelling posts. Then messaging. give me 3 or 4 messages that would be part of those posts, that kind of thing, so that I understand that you know what you want to say to those customers. Okay, let's look at this paid, earned, owned, and shared. The reason this is a good way to look at your tactics now, tactics is that each of these outline different elements of tactics. And I think if you could just look at what paid media we're going to do, and that is like digital ad campaigns you pay for, remarketing, and I want to talk about remarketing in a second here, paid social, SEO, search engine, SEM, search engine marketing, that kind of thing, affiliate marketing. That's what paid messaging is. It doesn't have to be digital campaigns, but we teach digital marketing, so I don't talk a lot about physical ads, but we do that as well. So earned media is the PR. Your campaign must have public relations. This is a PR story through and through. Think about having a grand opening event. All Starbucks do that kind of grand opening. And I can tell you, if you look back, if you can find anything from the opening of some of the other roasteries, they all did grand opening events, opening the day of, their lineups around where there were special offers for people to come in. The first 100 customers or 1,000 customers gets X, that kind of thing to really drive excitement, to get the people around the corner at Starbucks waiting to get in. What that leads to is a press event. Prior to opening, I'm just going to tell you right now, every Starbucks, I'm your customer. I'm going to tell you right now, I want to see a press event. And the press event will happen up to a week before, but somewhere between a week before and a couple days before, where you bring media into the store with a lead person. So you select who should be the one giving the tour, or is it more than one? And you give them a tour. You let them taste. You bring them, you maybe, give them coffee to take with them. Not all media can take that, by the way. Newspapers can't take gifts, but magazines sure can. Who would you invite? What magazines are in the area? What about TV stations? What visual? So think about that. But I want to see 2 things in every one of your programs under tactics. In PR, which would be your earned media, I want to see a press event and I want to see a grand opening event. Okay? Owned media, what are you going to do on the websites? What kind of blog posts? What kind of social content? Do we need some video? Should we be doing an email marketing campaign? Now, I'm not going to ask you to lay these all out. A real plan would have these detailed out. But I just want you to look back at your goals and strategies and see which of these type of events or tactics are going to work for your campaign. I'd like to see, looking at these, to have at least 4 to 6 tactics that are outlined. And again, I'm not asking you to write the ad. I'm not anything like that. I just want you to say you would like to do, for example, if you're going to go there, we're going to go with digital ad campaign. It's going to be a rich media banner ads. Rich media are the ones that have video or movement as opposed to stagnant ads. And we're going to place it in every, we're going to attach it to every search for coffee shops in the Atlanta market. And it's going to run for 3 months with, and you don't even have to go into the detail because we haven't talked about it very much, but you would be in a real campaign, we'd be saying the X amount of dollars with the amount of reach we would want to have. How many people do we want to reach? So anyway, but that's the kind of thing where you're taking your idea that the bigger strategy to use some digital advertising as a way to capture those people who are loyal coffee drinkers, that's your strategy. Then your tactic is, we're going to design compelling, rich media ads that will show some of the specialty drinks, and banner ads that will be available to, will pop up anytime somebody does a search for coffee, or coffee beverages, or anything. You can put a bunch of search words in there to run a certain amount of time. That's an example then of how the tactic takes all of this stuff you've been doing and brings it down to a very detailed level. And again, I don't want to see you do more than one slide per tactic and just bullet out what you want to do. Okay? So one slide per tactic, bullet it out. Please try to have a good mix of paid, earned, owned, and shared. So shared, it's the reviews, forums, media sharing. You want people out there to share your posts. So you're going to try to get shares that way. You might want to stimulate reviews. So maybe prompt with every online sale, please review your beverage, or go back to people and have them review. So you want to be able to get as much as you can associated with that. Owned, I do expect at least a strategy and a couple of tactics of what you're going to do on the website and the blog and the social. Do we need video content? I want to see that. Okay. I want to just go back and explain remarketing. It's also called retargeting. So think about anytime you've done a Google search and within a minute you go to Facebook, and in your feed, poof, there's some kind of news feed in your general news feed for Instagram, Facebook. They can do it with TikTok. They do it, well, not so as much with TikTok, but with your general, with Instagram, it's really used a lot, as it is with Facebook. So it means that you are telling Google that every time somebody uses some certain metadata, key marketing, keywords, anything like that, that when they do, swing an ad into their feed. Okay, you don't have to be on social to do it. I've actually had this happen with me talking. A couple of years ago, my daughter got married, and we were in the car, both of our phones here, but in the car, and we weren't on the phone, we weren't doing anything, but we were talking about, for the very first time, and I'd never looked them up, wedding bouquets. After we parked, I'm looking at my feed, and here's all these ads for wedding bouquets. It scared the crap out of me, because I hate the idea that they could do it simply by listening to me, but they do. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but I have a few times where it's just in there. But anyway, that is remarketing or retargeting. So if you choose to use that, that's part of it. But yeah, it's scary stuff. Yeah. Yes, the YouTube video from years ago, it pops up. Yeah, that is really interesting, but it happens, and it happens all the time. It's a very successful tactic, but do we like it? It's one of the reasons why DuckDuckGo is used as a search engine sometimes, because they have zero connection to Google, and they are basically, Google can't see them. So when you use something like a DuckDuckGo, you can research stuff that you don't want showing up in your feed. I mean, think about, sometimes you might want to just find out about something that's kind of out there, but you don't want people to think, you're just curious about it, but you don't want it to show up in your feed. Think about going to DuckDuckGo, because too many companies are remarketing. All right. I do not expect you to develop your assets. Assets are the physical ads, the actual mobile app, the public relations releases. Those are all different programs. If you take my PR class next quarter, you'll be writing press releases, but I didn't expect anybody to do that here. If you take our advertising campaign, you'll be making out spreadsheets of ads. And you will also then be developing ads, digital ads, and posting them. So it's a very fun, these are really great hands-on, kind of hardworking lessons, but you do not need to do those. All I ask of you is to think about what kind of tactics now you will take from your strategies. Remember, strategies are not detailed. They're just saying directionally what channel you want to use. So you want to have a strategy on advertising, maybe one on PR, maybe one on social. Those are the general ways I'm going to use a grand opening event to generate excitement and media coverage. So that's a strategy, but you don't detail it there. Then you go to the tactics and detail it. Okay, so think of this as like a tree, and your objectives are here, the goals are the next ones, the strategies, you'll get to have a few more, and then under those strategies, you're going to have your tactics. And this is where the level of detail happens. Again, I don't expect a ton of detail from you guys, just enough to let me know that you understand the tactic and how you see it relating to supporting the strategy, okay? Yes, ROI is coming next. Hang in there. I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna take questions because I know some people have specific questions, but I thought potentially I might be able to answer some of those by going through it. This timing one, again, I'm not gonna ask you to do that, but I do wanna just briefly explain what it is, and then I will go into the ROI. For timing, when you're writing a real campaign, you are going to have to be able to coordinate. When do you talk to shareholders? When do you talk to your employees? When do you talk to your stores? When does it post on Facebook versus when it goes out to the media? Because in many, many cases, media, for example, will not cover it if it's already been exposed. They want news. I've done a lot of national work, especially with brands and fashion brands and things like that. If our goal was to gain coverage in the New York Times, and that was the most important of our goals with additional coverage after that, I would have to go there first, because if the New York Times sees it anywhere else, they won't cover it. Only exclusives. That's all they do. So this is why timing is important, but we haven't gone into it enough, so I'm not going to get you there. So action for Pater just means you actually execute the program. And again, this is where you would have the real program where you'd be laying out who does what, when, and where. But I'm not going to ask you to do that either. I will ask you to look at reaction. This is where ROI comes in. Once you have implemented your plan, you've done it now. You've looked at the planning, you've looked at the, the approach you're going to take, you've looked at your timing, you've got it all coordinated, when things are going out and who's doing it, and then boom, now you manage making it happen. After it's out, as soon as immediately, in the case of some social, or several days later, you're going to gain reactions to particular tactics. You need to stay on top of that. So these are the kind of questions you would want to ask yourself as to how, what kind of reactions are you getting in terms of ROI. The standard tools you would use are, when you're doing data analytics, if you're going to be doing anything that involves your social media or your even your website, because your website, you can definitely look at website analytics to see, did we achieve the goal of 5,000 visits to the website in the first 2 days, whatever goal it was that you had developed. Did we gain X number of followers? What was the hit to how many people actually went on our Facebook page? With your web analytics, you can see how many people went on to our website, but you can also see how deep they went into the website. Did they click on new things? Did they go into finding a location? Did they order online? Or did they just stop and then exit? That's the one where you have to look at your homepage and what you're doing right or wrong. So there are social listening tools. Social listening is a function of public relations. And it's where we look at what we used to call clipping services years ago, where we would be clipping the articles that you got out of the newspaper or the magazines, or you were getting video clips or audio clips from TV and radio. Today, you can still do that, but today social listening is more that it's a tool, and these are paid social listening tools. Mostly you can do, you need to purchase some of these. And those are tools that will help watch what's going on in the whole social arena. And what are they saying about you? So it's stuff you can't monitor on your own, but you can see if you're getting favorable reaction and so forth. In the case of this one, I wouldn't do it because it's more for things like when Nike decided to use Kaepernick in their public relations and advertising campaign. They wanted to see what was happening on social, good and bad. And they wanted to see it across all social platforms. They wanted to get instant results, and you can only do that through social listening tools. Okay, so essentially what I want you to say is just generally that for return on investment, we're tie it back to your goal. If you had a SMART goal, repeat it and say, we will measure this goal through Google Analytics. We'll be checking, whatever it is. It might even be things like sales reports, which we call flash reports, things like that. It might be the amount of PR coverage you got. Did you get all the television stations there to cover people all the way around the back? So it can be everything from some of these more subjective. Yes, we had great, we're going to be asking for customer feedback after each. You can have some of that, to the really hard analytics that you would be getting through your website, Facebook, and Google. Did that answer the question about ROI? And again, I'm looking at 1 to 2 slides on ROI with bullets. I do not want you to go through all those details. I just want to make sure you understand what that is. Okay, good. Now, this again, I'm not asking for 1,000 slides. Any good presenter can pull these together with bullets and then you talk. I don't want this to go over 10 to 12 minutes with your presentation. So, but I need everybody to participate in it. So if you do it through Zoom, each person can have a chance to talk and do their part. In a real world setting, or if we were doing this in class, which I wish we were, you would interact with your people. So it would be, there'd be a lead and then they'd help guide to the next person. And I would be teaching you more on how to do those presentations that would be a little more organic, but obviously on Zoom, you can't do quite as much as that. But if you use Zoom, that is a way that'll allow you to interact a little bit with your teammates. I'm now going to just open this to questions. In hopes that, because I know that the tactical part is what you still have to do. And I'm hoping that you can keep it simple, but give me some questions.
Hi, yeah. For the whole project, there was a template. I don't know where I saw it. I know it was from this class. So do we use this as a template instead? Because there was like a template that like said, this is from, I believe this class. It was like, yeah, this is what I recommend for.
You do not use, I would like you to use, that's an excellent question. Thank you. But there are templates, and I am actually, I'm giving you sort of, you can use one of the templates that I provided. You do not use the PATER program as your template. I'm just giving it to you as a way of organizing your thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead and use the templates that are there. And think about just, each slide is a major concept.
Mm-hmm.
So goals, here's my goals slide. STP, here's who we're targeting. Think about trying to keep the message small enough, and each is just a little bullet that's to prompt you as the presenter, that you see a prompt in it. It's just a simpler way of doing it. I don't want to see long messages.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Because there was a template I was looking at, and then I guess after your lecture, I guess I understand like what the other stuff was, but like some of
Right.
the stuff wasn't really stuff that we talked about. Obviously, we talked about like technology in the industry and like marketing.
Right, and all of that's good stuff. I don't want you to feel that any of the work you've done so far isn't right on. It is. So just keep following that. I think pretty much what I'm asking you to do is add tactics
Yeah.
and add ROI, and
Okay.
do not add budget. Okay.
Alrighty.
I did mention, I saw somebody asked about it. The tactics be included with the strategy in the same slide. You know, that's something that I have debated for years. And I have written, I think I'm going to be flexible on you deciding how to do that. There are, when you're dealing with management, that's not necessarily marketing focused. When you do the strategy and then you list 3 or 4 tactics underneath it, that works for their brain. That's what they see. They go, yeah, that makes sense. I like that. That's, you know, but then there are strict rules in some marketing plans where you do your strategies, then you do your tactics. I am open either way, whatever makes sense. What I'm asking each of you to do, you're smart people. I've seen it in your work. You're good people. And I just use your own logic as to, does it make sense? If it's flowing and it makes sense and you're building your program, I don't care if you do it strategy tactics or strategies, and then here's our tactics. Either way works. You need to talk about the 4 Ps. You know, no, you don't have to talk about the 4 Ps. Some people do that, and in the HubSpot template that is in here, they follow the 4 Ps. You can do that. You need to be aware of those for, you know, the final exam, which I'll be talking about next week. But we're going to do a review for that so that everybody knows kind of what to be studying and to be part of that. But you don't have to do the 4 Ps. If you want to, you are more than welcome to put them in. I will, you know, if you feel that that's a good way for you to organize your thinking, go for it. As you can see, what I'm trying to tell you is that even though there are rules to putting together these plans, and probably Kyle Barber, who's my program manager, would hate me for saying this, but I really believe that the logical sequencing of things, having things flow from one to the other and being done maybe a little bit differently by each of you is perfectly fine. I just want to see a logical flow from what you've learned about the company to objectives, to goals, to strategies, to tactics. Okay, they can't be disjointed. You can't just throw in a tactic when you've had absolutely no strategy around that tactic. And it didn't help achieve any goal. You might just say, we want to do bus ads. Well, why? What strategy has led you to think that bus ads are going to be the best way for us, you know, ads on the side of the bus, the best way for us to introduce this? Might be a fabulous tactic, but unless it ties back to some strategy, don't throw it in. Really just keep it clean. If one of the ways I grade, and I think it makes it easier for a lot of people, if you can keep things down to a good quantity. I don't want to just see 1 or 2 ideas and that's it. I mean, I want to see a little thought going into these tactics, but keep them simple. Keep them simple. And you know, just bullet in and say, you know, here's what we want to do, and this is why we want to do it. It's going to really support this strategy. But, you know, we can't just do that. We also need to do this because it will help support that strategy even more. You know, that's what I want to see, is just that. And no tactic is wrong, even though I said bus ads. I just said it's only wrong if it has no connection to everything else you've been doing in your plan. So we need 1 sales and 1 marketing objective. Goal. Right, exactly. And the strategy, tactics, and ROI for both. Yes. I'm just using the previous team assignment for the basic. Yes, your previous team assignments are what I want you to use. Pater is only a guide to help you think through, have I done all these things, okay? But using that Pater PowerPoint, or just that whole idea of just, it's to help you think through all the questions you as a team have to ask. Did I do this? Did I do that? You know what, business initiatives. If you have written your objectives correctly, they tend to be business oriented. So stick to just getting good, solid objectives, because what you're trying to do with your business, your objectives, is going to fit very clearly. You're trying with your objectives maybe to, you know, to successfully launch the new store. Well, that's a business objective too. Okay, so I don't care about adding in like I say, in a more detailed one that you'd be doing for a company, you would add that. But for right now, I don't think you need to do it. Just go ahead and give me good, solid objectives. What else? Okay. So I'm hoping that you feel that what you've done has built, because you have. You're 3/4 of the way done with it. Based on everything you've worked on so far, I just want you to clean it up. Give me a pretty proud, and then tactics and ROI. And ROI is 1 slide. Okay.
Okay.
If there's no more questions, I'll let go, but also throughout this time, send me emails. I'm trying to jump on them quickly enough. Should the ROI go at the end? Yeah, make the ROI at the end. That really should. And then a conclusion. Wrap it all up into a pretty package at the very end. Some nice conclusion. Or in a thank you or whatever, but just give me some kind of conclusion slide, but ROI should be near the end, yeah. Add questions along the way if you have anything, and if I'm not responding fast enough, text me. I do see those. It's very rare. I don't have my phone at my hip, so I'll jump on those. So we'll work on that, and then the last lecture will be next week, and I'll focus on I will focus on the final. So the marketing technology is part of the tech. Absolutely, absolutely. You might be saying part of your tactic is you want to develop a mobile app specifically for this, or I want to do, you know, something I haven't talked about, but oh shoot, I'm forgetting. Why am I forgetting its name all of a sudden? But you know, gosh, it's a mobile technique where if somebody's near the store, an ad will pop up. I know what I'm talking about, but I can't get the words out of my head right now. But definitely I want to, you can use, yeah, marketing technology. So marketing channels and technologies should be in the tactics slides. Yep, that's where I would put them. You can use the channels in, you certainly are going to mention what channels you're going to use in your strategy. You just don't go into detail. I will use digital advertising to build recognition for the new, you know, the new roastery. But you then, that's a strategy. And then you'll go into the tactics on how you'll do that. I know it's a bit confusing, so hopefully I am recording this. I'll post it as soon as I can. It takes a little time because I have to download it and get it up on my YouTube, and then I put the YouTube channel on. So, but I'll have that downloaded and up by the end of today. For ads, are we explaining which ones we want to use instead of creating? Yes, you do not create the ad. Don't go to that ad. Tell me, with ads, it's more the strategy behind it. You want to use digital advertising, for example, or you want to advertise in the high-end magazines. There's Atlanta is the best magazine. That is a fantastic regional magazine, and it's read by all the high-end people. So people with money, and that's who you want. Maybe you want to do a full-page ad in Atlanta, and your strategy behind that is, you know, is to capitalize on the high-end viewership and the high per capita dollars of the subscribers to Atlanta through advertising. And then your tactics are create a full page ad for the first 3 months of Atlanta, promoting different elements of of the roastery to entice people to come and try it. So you don't have to tell me what the ad is, but you've told me full page, full color, something like that. You're going to have, each will be 3 different ads so that each month will be a new element. That's what I mean by a tactic. Don't go any further than that. Okay? Did that help, Caleb? Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, again, contact me with anything. I want you guys to succeed. I want this to be an amazing opportunity for you to really learn how to pull together a plan. Use your own strategy, use your own thought process. Go ahead and let it flow the way it makes sense for you. I'm not going to be super strict about that. I want to see thinking. It's all about your thinking. Did you link things together? Do they make sense? So that's the most important part, is just try to share with me your thought processes on these. Okay? All right, everybody, have a great week. Have fun with this. The tactics part is where you get to really have fun. It's where it's typically as students jump to tactics because, oh, let's do this, because it's just fun. But if you're going to do a grand opening event, give me 2 or 3 things you're going to do there. That's going to make it special. Okay? That's all I need. So have fun. We'll talk to you next week, and I'll post this in a little bit so that you can review things in case you have questions about what we talked about. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I will see you all next week. Bye.